If you're a triathlete and you've ever thought that you had more potential than the performances that you're putting out, A, you're not alone, because B, the most common training methods used by triathletes are actually designed really well to create a performance plateau where progress is completely stalled. The issue is what I call single speed athlete syndrome. And while just about every athlete thinks that their training is dialed right in, that if we aren't making progress year after year, there is room to improve our training methods. What's up, motivators? My name is Taren. When ordinary people want to accomplish something extraordinary in endurance sports, they choose our totally free Motive training plans. You're ready to take on that next big endurance challenge? Let's do it. Single speed athlete syndrome is a really common training plan issue where endurance athletes simply train too hard on their easy days, too short on their long days, and too easy on their hard days. Now you might hear this and think, oh, so I just need to be training harder? But that's not what I'm saying. The key to good training is to have a huge difference between your low and high intensity workouts. And most people just don't have a big enough difference. I know this for a fact because I did this myself thinking that my training was on point. Here's an example of what I was doing when I wasn't just not making progress, but I was actually stuck at a 5-hour half Ironman and getting slower. And then what I had to do to actually get faster and become a top 1% in the world age grouper. When I was stalled at 5-hour half Ironmans, an easy swim would be 2,500 meters in about 50 minutes, and a big swim would be 3,500 meters in about 75 minutes. But when I was a 4.5-hour half Ironman athlete, easy swims were just 700 meters in 20 minutes, and a big swim would be something like 5,000 meters in an hour and 40 minutes. When I was stalled, an easy bike workout would have intervals in the 180 to 200 watt range, while a hard bike workout would have intervals around the 240 to 260 watt range. As a 5.5-hour half Ironman athlete, an easy workout would literally be a 100 watt average recovery ride, while hard workouts would have intervals up towards 400 and 500 watts. When I was stalled out, my endurance building bike workouts would be 2 to 2.5 hours long, and my endurance building run workouts would be 75 to 90 minutes long, while as a 4.5-hour half Ironman athlete, my long bike workouts climbed up to 4 hours and my long run workouts were 2 hours. And finally, while I was stalled out, the difference between a really fast and a really slow run was just a minute and 13 seconds difference per mile, going from the very fastest to the very slowest. While when I was a 4.5-hour half Ironman athlete, it was a 2-minute and 50-second difference between my fastest and slowest pace. You see, us triathletes just generally tend to go kinda hard, but not hard enough to make any progress. And we go kinda easy, but not easy enough to be rested for when the hard workouts actually come. And there are a few reasons that this happens. First, we always want to feel like we're getting in a good workout every time we strap on our spandex. But we can't go to the well every day, so we're stuck in third gear all the time, and third gear just isn't where gains are made. Second, going really easy in zones 1 and 2 is actually quite difficult for our ego, while going really hard in zones 4 and 5 is quite difficult for our body. So we tend to avoid those efforts, but those are the zones where the gains are actually made. And finally, coaches and training plan creators tend to feel like they are hired to write workouts for their clients. So every single session they write is literally a workout. But when you look at a pro's training plan, 70 to 80% of their workouts is just one single low intensity speed the entire way through the workout. I've trained with pro athletes for weeks on end, and they literally only have about 3 workouts a week that are anything worth watching. To get even a little bit more specific for you, I'm going to show you an example of what my training plan looked like when I was stuck at a 5-hour half Ironman, and in fact, even getting a little bit slower than that 5 hours. Then I'm going to show you what my training plan looked like as a 4.5-hour half Ironman athlete so you can see the difference. I'll reveal each workout on the top here of what my before training plan looks like as we go. And I'll give you a little bit of time at the end so you can take a screenshot of this so you don't have to write any of this down. When I was stalled out, my Monday workouts would be a pretty challenging 60 to 75 minute swim, and then about a 5-minute per K, about an 8-minute per mile run in the evening of about 20 to 40 minutes. On Tuesday, I'd have a moderate intensity bike of 60 to 90 minutes, averaging intervals of about 200 to 240 watts. After that, I'd do a 15 to 30 minute brick workout where I'd go fairly quick at 4 minutes 15 seconds to about 5 minutes per kilometer. On Wednesday, I would have another quite challenging swim of about 60 to 90 minutes, and then later in the evening, I would do an interval run of 60 to 90 minutes, where I would do those intervals at about 4 minutes 15 seconds to 4 minutes 30 seconds per kilometer. This is around 7 minutes per mile. On Thursday, I'd have another bike workout of 60 to 90 minutes, where my watts would be about 240 to 270 watts during my intervals. And then I would do a run later in the day of 20 to 40 minutes at that 5 minute per K, roughly 8 minutes per mile, easy-ish kind of pace. On Friday, I would do another quite challenging swim of about 60 to 70 minutes. On Saturday was my main bike, where I would do intervals around 180 to 220 watts, where my race target power was around 190 to 200. This bike would be 2 hours to 2.5 hours long, and then I would do a 15 to 30 minute brick run in that 4:15 to 5 minute per kilometer pace. And then Sunday would be the long run, which was always just our run group. We would go 90 minutes at 4 minutes and 30 seconds to 5 minutes per kilometer. Now, to give you some context of how intense everything was, I'll color code everything that was really intense and really challenging, meant to build up a ton of speed and top end here in red. So there's a lot of really key sessions here. And then I'm going to indicate the workouts that are kind of a moderate intensity, more that sweet spot effort. So you'd look at this and think, wow, for a total of 13 hours a week, Taren was doing a heck of a lot of really good work. But here, I'll show you exactly how different it was when I started changing my training plan all at once so you can see the difference. I'll color code everything that was a total recovery, something that you wouldn't even consider a workout or intense at all, in green. Here we have total recovery on Monday to recover from a hard weekend of training. We have total recovery on Friday, just a 60-minute bike at 100 watts to prepare for Saturday and Sunday so that we can go into those workouts on the weekend feeling kind of fresh. And then I'll also color code all the really intense key workouts during the week. So what you can see is that there's actually less really challenging workouts in here, but when we look at the bike before, the intervals before were anywhere from 200 to 270 watts, whereas the bike after was 280 to 400 watts. I was only able to do that because I have far more workouts here that are green, where I'm not completely spent because the intensity and effort level is quite a bit lower. The interval run is also a little bit faster, 3 minutes and 45 seconds to 4 minutes and 10 seconds per kilometer versus 4 minutes and 15 seconds to 4 minutes and 30 seconds per kilometer. And then I'll color code all of the moderate intensity workouts in yellow so you can see the difference in the intensity distribution that is different between before and after. There is so much more intensity here, and there's even more hours that I was training beforehand. So theoretically, I was doing better training, but I was getting far worse results. Here, I was doing actually much more polarized training, where the workouts on the weekend that are meant to build endurance, they were less intense, but they were far longer. So they actually built a lot more endurance, which is the actual point of these workouts. These speed workouts in the middle actually started building a lot of top end speed, which again is the point of those workouts. But the single speed nature of this training plan, which is really common to triathletes, it results in athletes that haven't built a lot of endurance because the long workouts on the weekend just aren't long enough. And then it doesn't even build a lot of speed, even though it feels like you're working harder more of the time, because you're not fresh enough to go hard enough in these workouts to build that speed. Now, you can of course get a free training plan from the Motive app that will take care of getting this breakdown for you. But if you want to create a training plan yourself, here are the keys that you need to do to follow this method. First, use our heart rate zone calculator. Link is in the description below to calculate your exact zone 2 heart rate ceiling. Second, keep your heart rate in zones 1 and 2 for your recovery workouts, which there should be 2 of every week, and for your endurance building workouts, which there should be 1 really long bike and 1 really long run workout each week. Finally, when it's time for you to go and do your interval bike and run workouts, you should now be fresher on those days, so you need to go faster in those workouts. These workouts should be hard, really hard, as in you're a little bit afraid of these workouts before you start them kind of hard. And without even adding in a pile of super sophisticated workouts or even really dialing in your power and your intensity for your high intense workouts or your pace or anything like that, you will be performing much better training than most athletes out there because you'll be getting away from that single speed plateau that so many triathletes fall into. Of course, though, if you want something much more detailed, go check out the Motive Training app, which will get you a personalized training plan for free. And finally, if you buy into these methods and you want to start training at a lower heart rate more often, it's going to be difficult when you start. So click the video on the screen now to see our entire system for learning to run at a low heart rate as easily as possible. Later, motivators.